Fulvia, the warrior queen of Rome, welcome to the History in the Shadow. If you like our videos, then please subscribe. She commanded armies, controlled senators, and once held a dagger to Cicero's severed tongue. While Roman women were expected to stay silent and invisible, Fulvia shattered every rule and became the most powerful woman in the Republic's history. She fought civil wars, defied Marc Antony, and nearly conquered Rome itself. Meet the warrior queen who terrified even Julius Caesar's heir. The Forum Romanum had never seen anything like it. In the year 41 BC, as stunned senators and citizens watched in shock, a woman in military dress strode through the sacred heart of Roman power, a sword at her side and an army at her back. This wasn't some foreign queen begging for Rome's mercy. This was Fulvia, a Roman citizen, and she had come to claim what she believed was rightfully hers. But Fulvia's path to this moment of unprecedented female power had been anything but traditional. Born into the plebeian nobility around 83 BC, she had watched the Roman Republic tear itself apart through civil war and political chaos. Her father had died when she was young, and her mother had struggled to maintain their family's position in a world where women had few legal rights and even fewer opportunities to exercise real influence. What set Fulvia apart wasn't just her beauty or intelligence, though she possessed both in abundance, but her absolute refusal to accept the limitations that Roman society placed on women. From her earliest years, she demonstrated a political instinct and ruthless ambition that would have been remarkable in a man and was virtually unthinkable in a woman. Her first marriage, to Publius Clodius Pulcher, gave her an education in the brutal realities of Roman politics. Clodius was a populist politician and gang leader who used violence and intimidation as standard political tools. Rather than retreating to the traditional role of a proper Roman wife, Fulvia became his partner in every sense, learning to navigate the dangerous currents of late Republican politics. She watched as Clodius built a network of supporters among Rome's urban poor, using them as a private army to intimidate his enemies and advance his agenda. She saw how money, violence, and popular support could be more powerful than noble birth or traditional authority. Most importantly, she learned that in the chaos of a dying republic, the old rules no longer applied to anyone clever and bold enough to break them. When Clodius was murdered by his political rival Milo in 52 BC, Fulvia's reaction shocked even hardened Roman observers. Rather than retreating into mourning and widowhood, she turned his funeral into a political rally that nearly burned down the city. She displayed his bloodied body to the crowds, whipping them into such a frenzy that they stormed the Senate House and used the furniture to build a funeral pyre for their fallen champion. But Fulvia was just getting started. Her second marriage, to Gaius Scribonius Curio, gave her access to even more powerful political networks. Curio was initially a supporter of the old Republican establishment, but eventually switched sides to support Julius Caesar. Fulvia not only supported this decision, but actively encouraged it, recognizing earlier than most that Caesar represented the future of Roman power. When Curio died fighting in North Africa in 49 BC, Fulvia found herself widowed again, but now with connections to the most powerful faction in Roman politics. She had also proven herself capable of surviving and thriving in the most dangerous political environment in Roman history. 2 husbands had died violent deaths, but she had emerged stronger each time. Her third marriage would elevate her to unprecedented heights of power and influence. Marcus Antonius, Marc Antony, was one of Caesar's closest associates and, after the dictator's assassination in 44 BC, one of the 3 men who divided the Roman world between them. But Antony needed more than just military skill and political connections to survive in the post-Caesar world. He needed someone who understood the complex dynamics of Roman domestic politics and could manage his interests while he was away on campaign. Fulvia proved to be exactly what he needed. While Antony was in the east, establishing his control over the wealthy provinces of Asia and Egypt, Fulvia essentially functioned as his representative in Rome itself. She met with senators, dispensed patronage, managed his vast financial interests, and built the political coalitions that kept his faction competitive with those of Octavian and Lepidus. But she was far more than just a competent administrator. Fulvia had her own political agenda and wasn't afraid to pursue it even when it conflicted with her husband's instructions. She believed that Antony was too willing to compromise with Octavian, Caesar's heir, and that this compromising spirit would ultimately cost him the chance to dominate the Roman world. Her opportunity came when tensions between Antony and Octavian reached a breaking point over the land distributions promised to veteran soldiers. Octavian was confiscating property throughout Italy to provide farms for his troops, but this policy was creating enormous resentment among displaced landowners. Fulvia saw a chance to build a coalition against Caesar's heir by positioning Antony as the defender of property rights and traditional Roman values. What she did next was unprecedented in Roman history. Without Antony's explicit authorization, and indeed against his expressed wishes, Fulvia began raising an army. She used Antony's name and resources, but the strategy and execution were entirely her own. She recruited among veterans loyal to Antony, displaced farmers angry at Octavian's confiscations, and anyone else with grievances against the young triumvir. By late 41 BC, she had assembled a force of nearly 20 legions, a larger army than many emperors would command at the height of the imperial period. More shocking still, she took personal command of this force, appearing before her troops in military dress and giving speeches that would have been considered remarkable coming from any Roman commander. The war that followed, known to history as the Perusine War, saw Fulvia achieve what no Roman woman had ever attempted: independent military command on a strategic level. Her forces controlled much of central Italy, and for several months, it appeared that she might actually succeed in overthrowing Octavian and establishing Antony as the sole ruler of Rome. Her strategy was sound and her execution impressive. Rather than attempting to defeat Octavian in a single decisive battle, she established a fortified base at Perugia, modern Perugia, and attempted to coordinate with other anti-Octavian forces throughout Italy. If she could maintain her position until Antony returned from the east, or until other commanders like Ventidius arrived with reinforcements, she would have had an excellent chance of success. But Octavian proved more capable than she had anticipated. Rather than attacking her fortified position directly, he surrounded Perugia with a double line of fortifications and began a siege that cut off all supplies to the city. As winter set in and food became scarce, Fulvia's political coalition began to fracture. More damaging still, Antony refused to support her war effort. Whether from genuine disagreement with her strategy or fear of being seen as unable to control his own wife, he publicly distanced himself from her actions and even began negotiations with Octavian for a renewed alliance. Faced with starvation, military defeat, and abandonment by the husband for whom she had risked everything, Fulvia finally surrendered in early 40 BC. Octavian, demonstrating the political acumen that would eventually make him Rome's first emperor, treated her with surprising clemency. Rather than executing her as a rebel, he allowed her to go into exile, recognizing that making a martyr of such a popular figure would only create more problems for his regime. Fulvia's final years were spent in bitter exile in Sicyon, Greece. Antony, having secured his reconciliation with Octavian through marriage to the latter's sister Octavia, showed little interest in his previous wife's fate. She died in 40 BC, probably from illness, having been abandoned by the man for whom she had sacrificed everything. But her impact on Roman high story extended far beyond her military campaigns. Fulvia had demonstrated that women could exercise real power in the Roman world if they were willing to break every social convention and risk everything in the pursuit of their goals. She had commanded armies, controlled vast financial resources, and come closer than any woman before her to actually ruling the Roman state. Her example would inspire other ambitious women throughout the imperial period, from Livia, who would effectively co-rule with Augustus, to later empresses like Messalina and Agrippina, who wielded enormous behind-the-scenes influence. She had proven that gender was not an absolute barrier to political power, even in the male-dominated world of ancient Rome. Perhaps more importantly, her career illustrated the opportunities and dangers of the late Republican period, when traditional social structures were breaking down and new forms of power were emerging. In the chaos of civil war and political revolution, even the most fundamental assumptions about who could wield power were open to challenge. Fulvia's story serves as a reminder that history is often shaped by individuals who refuse to accept the limitations that society places on them. Her willingness to shatter every convention about women's roles in Roman society, combined with her genuine political and military talents, allowed her to achieve a level of power and influence that would have been unthinkable for previous generations of Roman women. Heroic music with melancholic undertones, Fulvia died in exile, abandoned by the man she had tried to make emperor. But she had proven something that Rome would never forget: that power belonged to those bold enough to seize it, regardless of the expectations others placed upon them.